At the I-65 scale right now, one of the things we've got going on is that if you've ever been through that scale, you can walk right out the door of the building and you're right there next to the truck. We've got several officers that are standing outside right now, and they're looking for specific violations, and they're having a lot of success. So what I want to show you folks here is a series of pictures of airlines. And these are basically the airlines that connect the tractor to the trailer, but not all of them are. And I want you to take a look at these pictures, and then we'll talk about what all these pictures have in common. Okay, this is not tubing, this is air hose. So, what do you see in there?
It's rubbed through to the end of the bridge.
All right. Yep. That one's got a little something right there, but not enough to do anything. But that one's got a couple of spots on it. And as those of you who know that, again, when you pull up on the scale, they can walk right out the door right there and be right at that position. And again, they can grab a hose and take a look at that and see that. Now, first and foremost is that that's a violation. So it's going to be listed on the inspection report and that basically what that triggers is it says, okay, you have basically 15 days to get it fixed if it's rubbed through like that. But the thing I want you to take a close look at is right down here. That is that webbing that surrounds the actual inside of the hose. So there'd be the inside of the hose, rubber, and then it's reinforced with this fiber. The regulations say that if there's any fraying of that fiber, that now becomes out of service. And so you can see right down there, it makes it pretty simple. If you want to go to the next one, please. Again, hose and not tubing, but you can see, and it's what I point out is it's just one or two individual fibers. So there is no degree of saying, okay, well, you can have a certain number of fibers. No, they say no fibers. So again, if it's chewed into that a little bit, it's at least a violation, but right there, that sets it off. Again, out of service. What do you see there? Yep. That hose is bulging. So again, and the regulations talk about, don't know why, I have no idea, but that's what we're getting right there is that bulging. I mean, this up here is pretty obvious, but even down here, if you see that hose is a specific circumference and you see anything like that, it doesn't allow for it. So that again is out of service. One of the things before you move on to the next one, on the pigtail or electrical line, if you've got any kind of damage on that, we see this a lot where folks will tape it up. That's okay too, but in this circumstance down there or anywhere else, we're going to cut the tape off. Because again, we want to basically see why it's there. Nobody just puts tape on there because they like to roll tape out onto cords. There's a reason. And that's the one. And again, on something like that, it is just that it's a violation and it needs to be fixed. But it puts that 15-day clock on you to say, okay, I got to go buy a new pigtail. The only time that this is going to come into play to where this is going to be out of service is because those lines are cut and you have no brake lights, no lights whatsoever, whatever reason. And that's only going to be the time that happens. Okay. Now this is basically the wrap that you see that they put on those, which is fine. There's nothing that says you can't do that. Even one that covers entirely. But what they're looking at right there is, again, now they may have seen something on this wrapping and then pulled it apart to find that. But again, rubbing, but there's your violation with that frayed fiber. So again, simple out of service. They see up here where it's kind of torn, so there may have been some type of damage to it, but they're going to just, again, I've talked about this before. They may have looked at that and saw that and thought, okay, that gets my foot in the door, so now I'm going to look further, and this is what they find. Okay, real quick on inspections. For you folks, there are 3 different levels of inspection that count. There's a level 1, which is the most intrusive level of inspection. That means driving around to the barn, and where they have them, we're going to go over the dynamic brake tester. The ramps on that are about that high, so now you not only drive in, you have to go over the pit, that's the length of it, but you got to drive up on a ramp and then go over that. So, but the officer is going to talk to you prior to going in, going to guide you up to where you need to be. Each axle will go into that single slot, so we're checking one axle at a time. Once you clear that, then you're on to the pit where we're going to go over the truck on everything else. So on a level 1, they check the truck, they check the cargo securement, they check all your paperwork, including your logs and your driver's license. A level 2 that we're going to do today would be that we bring the truck around into the parking lot in the back. We're not going to go into the barn. We're not going to go over the brake tester. We're not going to inspect the brakes. We're not going to crawl underneath it. We're going to do cargo securement, lights and tires, driver's license, load logbook, all that, ELD, all that stuff like that. So we're just not going underneath the vehicle. A level 3, which is how we currently, the state, that is the level of inspection that we do when we're making overtime. That is, we're going to ignore the truck. And we're going to just concentrate on driver. We're going to get bill of lading, ELDs transferred to us, driver's license, and registrations. Anybody in here, everybody in here clear on how to transfer your logs to an enforcement officer? This is where everybody nods yes. That's what we want. High beams and low beams. All right, left turn, right turn, 4-way flashers. Okay, windshield wipers and washers. Yep, okay. Now, I'm going to just simulate an air horn. You can tap the city horn if you want to. That's fine. Because you would think it's just the air horn. No. It can be, but as long as the vehicle has a horn, you're good.
So it doesn't have to be, it has to be either or?
Yeah.
Okay, so certain officers in different states say it's got to be both, so.
And yeah, so again, you can see where there are some discrepancies. So saying that you just honk the city horn does not mean that if you have a problem with your air horn, you should not get it addressed as soon as possible. So again, we go down the side of the vehicle, and again, this is my method of doing this. I'm looking to see that every light that is on this trailer is working. Now I go to the back of this, and I see the lights that are back here that are on, but I want to have somebody climb up and do left turn, right turn, and tap the brake. All right, yep, release. So again, lights working, left turn again, lights working. Okay, now as I'm back here, I want you to go ahead and shut off the key. Okay, turn your key back on, put it to the on position instead of accessory. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, very good. Left turn, right turn, 4-way flashers, tap the brake, release. The license plate light is on there. I honestly, in my career, I don't think I've ever listed a license plate light as a violation.
That's what I was going to ask you.
But
I've been hearing that some officers with the license plate light at the back of the cab.
Yep.
They've been getting drivers for that.
And that is a true statement. I don't do that individually. But I cannot guarantee that somewhere in this country that law officers will not do that. And the reason why they can do it and get away with it is it is a light that is put on there by the manufacturer. And every light that's put on there by the manufacturer has to work.
I got a question.
Hang on just a second. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you another question. The DOT thing.
Yep.
What was it, just this year they started cracking down? And stuff, it had to be all the way across or something like that?
There is a standard.
Does it have to be all the way across? Or can it be like some of the trailers where?
I'm going to defer that question until I can actually double check the standard again, because there is a standard and it has changed. But for the purposes of the back of this truck, you see this is all on there. You see it gets to here and it's missing from here to here. But in the old standard, the majority of this tape is still back here, so this is okay.
Right.
But it's not going to get better on its own. So if you see something like this as a driver and you kept this trailer all the time, I would strongly suggest that you get this changed at some point in time.
So I got a question
Yes.
about the ABS light.
Yes.
When you turn it on the keys,
Mm-hmm.
in some trucks, you don't do the one you do it.
Uh-huh.
It's only do when you push the brake.
Yes.
So when you push the brakes, light, turn it on, and then 5
Well-
minutes you shut it off, and then a minute. or
Yes.
something like this.
Part of the thing on that ABS system was when you turn the key back on,
Some trucks you don't do it like this.
you see the light. On some you don't, but you also hear the system do its check.
Okay.
If
You
you
push
hear
the
the
brake.
system do the check, then again, that is an acceptable standard. Or if you don't hear it, then you go up to the cab of the truck and see what,
Push the brake.
Or some of them you even have to have the engine running. So, a variety of different standards apply there. So it's not just the light, but that was the easiest one to do.
Yeah, because mine, I turn it on the keys to the light, he don't come on. But when you push the brake, you can get the 4 point, the 4
Yep.
points.
The click,
And
click, click.
And the light, when you do the 4 points, the light is off.
Yep.
Okay.
So there are different standards for different things. One of the things that, well, and I'll talk about this later. Again, we're concentrating on lights. We come up to the right side. Can we get the right turn signal on again? Outstanding. Thank you. Again, all lights that are put on there by the manufacturer, again, have to work. The license plate light on the back of this, even though Indiana doesn't require a license plate back there, you can see that the license plate light is working. So, non-issue. Lights there, lights up there. One of the things I would be concerned about is that I would not believe that the manufacturer put those lights on there. I would think that that wasn't the case.
What's that?
The lights on the back of the high sleeper back there.
Standard equipment on Western Star as of 2000.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then yes, it would be required to work. But in the overall scheme of things, as far as whether or not that worked on an inspection, I don't think I would hold them to that standard. But again, lights there, lights here, all lights work. Okay, thank you. You can turn the lights off. What I would do next would just be to go along here and do a cursory look at the tires. With the vanity covers on there, I mean, I can still see if I can try to move them a little bit. At this point, fuel caps, exhaust. I'm just looking for something, real quick to see. You're checking, you can see the fuel tax permit. Carrier signs and lettering are on this side of the truck. Again, could be a violation. Hoses, from what I can see, from this side I don't have any issues. Just turning a couple of the nuts or the bolts that connect the lower coupler to the frame rail. As you can see, it's a pretty rushed or cursory inspection. I'm looking to see if there's any cracks between handholds or manufactured holes in those. Usually on these type of rims, you can just take the dirt from your finger and rub it in that crack, and that crack will stand out like $1 million. Yep. Just checking, looking at the mud flaps. State of Indiana does not have a mud flap or a tarp law, but if you've got them on there, it's like anything else. These items have to be secured to the vehicle in a proper manner. Same thing on landing gear. That landing gear is not all the way up in its proper position, but the fact is that it's still at a good height, at an acceptable height. Hazmat tankers have a minimum clearance that they have to have. If they're below that clearance, they're in violation. So kind of keep an eye on that a little bit. Again, just looking along here, securing through a stake pocket and around a spool or something like that, they have to be in pristine condition. You cannot hook here and somebody's taking a forklift and bash this in. You can't hook here, you can't hook through here if the weld is torn. You can't hook around this if the weld is torn. So you have to be, this area has to be in a pristine condition if you're utilizing this area. Now, this could be all beat up, but if you've got one area that you're using, it's fine. That's okay, but you cannot secure to an area that has previous damage. I think it's, thought I had a crack, but I think it's more just tar or grease that has spun out of that center. You guys can,
Tire tool on it or something.
yeah, probably put a scrape in it or something like that.
Almost like a
I can
gouge.
see one across from
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
too.
and I took my finger and wiped through it. Once you take your finger and wipe through that like that, it really helps as far as, but that one down there, that was the one I was concerned with, but I scratched at it a little bit. Because that one down there, you can feel it, but I think it's actually, like I said, hardened grease or grime that has spun out of that wheel.
Mills, is your trailer? No. I'm surprised.
But again, just traveling along and taking a look at stuff. Making sure all kinds of stuff like this is secured to the trailer. This is adequate, not a problem. Making sure all this stuff is adequately secured on here. Nothing says you can't have it, it's just got to be secured. And what hose I could see on this would be just what I would concentrate on or look at. You can see what I'm looking at right there, because see how that hose right there grabs onto that? It's not chewed up, but it's shined up a little bit. So, and it brings us back around to this area of the truck, 123. And there we are. So what I would then do would just ask the driver if I could open the door, and what we'd look at inside would be the fire extinguisher to make sure it is charged up and secured, and then ask to see if there were emergency reflectors in the vehicle. Outstanding. A lot of the time what we'll see is we'll see the box, but then we'll open it and there's one good one and two busted ones in there. And yeah, and it happens, I understand that.
Now,
But
does it got to be triangles or can it be flares also?
it can be flares except for hazmat loads. You can't have flares on a hazmat
Right.
load. So yes, a partial answer, yes. Okay, then I would have the driver up in there, turn the key on and bleed the air pressure down till the low air buzzer comes on. Yep, there it come on. Yep, there it come on. So yeah, you can shut that off.
Okay.
Okay. So we've gotten through that. What I would need as far as paperwork to finish this would be a driver's license and a tractor and trailer registration. And then I just take pictures of the unit numbers and the license plates, and that would do it.